Have you ever really, truly stopped to think about what you're made of? I mean, not just the big stuff like bones and muscle, but something way, way smaller. It turns out you're not just one thing. You're actually a massive, bustling metropolis made up of trillions of tiny, incredibly sophisticated little worlds. And today, we're going to take a tour of one of them.
So let's just ask the question straight up. If you forget about what you see in the mirror for a second, what is the absolute fundamental building block that makes you, well, you? The answer is kind of mind-blowing. You're a walking, talking collection of trillions of tiny, self-sustaining cities, each one running 24/7, with its own government, its own power plants, its own factories and security forces, all working together just to keep you alive. We just happen to call them cells. Okay, so let's zoom in on one of these tiny cities. What exactly is it? Well, a cell is the fundamental unit of all life as we know it. It's the smallest possible thing that we can actually point to and say, yep, that's alive. So to understand the giant metropolis that is your body, we have to start with the blueprint for a single one of its buildings. You know, this whole idea is so foundational to biology that it has its own theory, the cell theory. It's built on three really simple but powerful rules. First, if something is alive, it's made of cells, period. Second, the cell is the most basic, fundamental unit of that life. And third, and this is a big one, cells don't just pop into existence. They can only come from other cells that already exist.
Now, just like our cities, these cellular cities aren't all built the same. Over billions of years, life on Earth has basically developed two major architectural blueprints, two very different ways to organize all the pieces.
On one side, you've got prokaryotes. The best way to think of these is like a tiny studio apartment. They're simple, they're ancient, and they're super efficient. Everything, the DNA, all the machinery, it's all just kind of floating around together in one open space. Bacteria are the classic example. But then you have the eukaryotes. These are the mansions. They're way more complex, with lots of different rooms. We call them organelles. And each room has a very specific job to do. Every plant, every animal, and yup, every part of you is built from these incredible mansion-style cells. So for the rest of our time here, let's take a tour inside one of these mansions, one of your very own eukaryotic cells. Let's go meet the key players that keep this unbelievably complex city running like clockwork.
Our first stop has to be City Hall, the nucleus. This is the command center, the brain of the whole operation. It's a secure facility that holds the most valuable thing the cell owns, the DNA. Think of DNA as the master blueprints for everything the city will ever need to build or do. Of course, no city runs without power, right? In our cell, that job belongs to the mitochondria. These are the power plants, and they are working non-stop, converting the food you eat into a special kind of energy currency called ATP. It's the fuel that runs the whole show. And that's why cells that do a ton of work, like your muscle cells, are absolutely jam-packed with thousands of these little powerhouses. Now, this city also has an amazing manufacturing and shipping system, like a perfectly coordinated assembly line. Here's how it works. First, a set of instructions is copied from the master DNA blueprints inside the nucleus. Then, those instructions are sent out to the factory floor. That's the endoplasmic reticulum, where tiny workers called ribosomes get to work building the products, which are usually proteins. And finally, all those finished goods get sent to the Golgi apparatus. This is basically the city's post office, where everything is sorted, packaged, and shipped out to exactly where it needs to go.
But you know, a city is way more than just its big, fancy buildings downtown. To really work, it needs secure borders, it needs a sanitation department, and it absolutely needs a way to talk to its neighbors. Your cells are no different.
See, every single cell is surrounded by something called the cell membrane. This is the city border, but it's also the security checkpoint. It's incredibly smart, acting like a bouncer that carefully controls exactly what gets in, like food and nutrients, and what gets kicked out, like waste. It's all about maintaining that perfect, stable environment inside. So what happens to all the trash? I mean, a busy city makes a lot of waste. That's where the lysosomes come in. These are the cell's official recycling and waste disposal centers. They're basically little sacks filled with powerful enzymes that can break down old, worn-out cell parts, unwanted junk, and even dangerous foreign invaders like bacteria.
And this is so important to remember. These cellular cities are not islands. In a massive metropolis like a human body, all those trillions of cells have to work together as a team. They are constantly talking to each other, sending and receiving chemical signals to coordinate everything from when to grow to what job they need to do for the good of the entire organism.
So we've visited the power plant, the factory, the post office. We've checked out the city's border security and its recycling screw. But why? Why is this specific, intricate blueprint so incredibly important? Why does any of this matter?
It all comes down to this one single beautiful idea. The function of a cell is determined by its structure. A muscle cell is long and packed with mitochondria because its job is to contract and produce force. A nerve cell is super long and branched out because its job is to send signals over long distances. The design literally creates the destiny. That relationship between form and function is the very foundation of all biology. It's everything.
So we'll leave you with this to chew on. If your body really is this massive, cooperative metropolis of trillions of individual cell cities, all working together from the same set of blueprints, all talking and coordinating, what is it that they're all building together? They're building you.